I want to give everyone a warning about this guy Aaron Clary. I caution you to not divulge any personal information to him or send him any pictures. Not too long back he was hounding Barbarossaaaa, wanting to see pictures of him. I'll let Barbarossaaaa explain this.
Now, another instance in which my identity is being requested is this gentleman Aaron Clary. If you guys don't remember him, he uploaded the video abusing MGTOW, and pretty much ran off generalization after generalization at MGTOW, saying we can't get laid, the same generic Willy Bumblebee fluff. Nothing to see here, gentlemen. You can move along. You don't even really have to see the video if you want to. It is called abusing MGTOW, like I just said. Now, this gentleman, and this was really weird, this gentleman, after he uploaded that abusing MGTOW video, I posted a comment pretty much saying something along the lines of talking about how really these type of people are essentially controlled by pussy. In response to this, he pens a blog post talking about how Barbarossaaaa needs to show his face, and then he messages me on Twitter at like 3 a.m., like 4 a.m. in the morning. I just happened to be awake at the time. Maybe we're in different time zones, I don't know. And so he messages me and says, well, you need to show me your picture so I can determine whether or not you're really going your own way because you can, or you want to, or because you just can't get any girls. I, of course, tell him, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to share any of my images with you whatsoever. He messages me and he says, well, you need to show me a pic so I can decide whether or not you have voluntarily or involuntarily gone your own way due to women rejecting you. I said, again, absolutely not, no way, no how. And he says, I tell him, look, I got laid that day, and that was a fact. Then he says, pics or it didn't happen. I mean, he literally demanded pics of sexual activity between me and a woman to prove, so to speak, that I've earned the validation of a woman, and thus have chose my own way, to go my own way of my own volition.
And here's Aaron Clary talking about his theory that some self-identified MGTOW are not real MGTOW, they're just lonely basement dwellers, or little kids afraid to ask women out, and he gets into the issue of pictures.
This is where things get really interesting. We'll see if I'm right, I could be wrong, but I have a sneaky suspicion. They're avatars. Avatars? Yeah, they're avatars. You'll never see their faces. See, you see my face now, because I'm a handsome devil. No, you see my face because I don't give a fuck, because I truly believe this, and I don't care. I think a lot of these guys, if you saw their faces, at least the fat acceptance, those women go out in public and do a fat walk. You go, okay, they're loud and they're proud. At least they're out there. At least you see them. At least they'll show their faces. These guys won't. I understand, of course, internet privacy, why you may not want to have your face out there. I understand. And there are some really good YouTubers that do have it. But a perfect example is this guy called Barbarossaaaa, or Uncle Barbar. Look him up. I've never seen a picture of him. And I've gotten into debates and arguments with some of these people over the internet. And here's the other sneaky suspicion I have. The language and the syntax, you're not dealing with a 45-year-old adult. I almost feel like these guys are like 16, 17, 18. But, you know, a couple pictures, a couple of you like, here's a picture of so-and-so. I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, that's, I'm like, that fucking hypocrite. So I know a couple of them out there. I'm like, good Lord. And it fits the profile. It's like, you know, number one, not the number one complaint, but the number one stereotypical accusation of a feminist is you're fat, you're ugly, and you're alone with cats. Well, there's some truth to that stereotype, because you see them, I'm like, you go on the Women's Studies Department page, you're like, oh, geez, why? God almighty, why? I wonder if it wouldn't be the same thing with these misogynist MGTOWs.
Yesterday, out of the clear blue, I get a tweet by someone on Twitter called Taking Over, saying here's your mentors Barbarossaaaa and Stardust, followed by a picture of the two, and a link to some of Barbarossaa's older work from about 10 years ago or something, involving some conspiracy theories and stuff he was into in his teen years. So this was a doxing tweet designed to humiliate and intimidate Barb and Stardust, and this tweet was sent to many other people. Barbarossaaaa has responded to this doxing tweet, and has shown his face in his newest video, and I'll link to that. In great irony, Aaron's proclamation that these misogynist MGTOW to which he accused Barbarossaaaa of being, and therefore obviously would have included Stardust, are fat and ugly, and can't get laid. And ironically it turns out these two guys aren't bad looking at all, neither has a look that could be held to Fabio or Brad Pitt, but Barb would strike you as your average college football jock, and Stardust looked a little like the guy at the club who might kick your ass if you stepped on his shoes. He had a rather hard look to him. In other words, there was nothing wrong with these guys. They weren't young teens just discovering puberty and being shy around girls. Neither of them looked weak, thin, frail, shy, intimidated, or like fat couch potatoes. Nothing about them suggests that they'd have a difficult time getting sex from women, which is the basis of Aaron Clary's entire theory. Again, Aaron is saying there are real MGTOW, like aged and experienced MGTOW, veterans he calls them, and these men don't hate women, they don't trash talk women, and they don't abstain from women, they're just these carefree Marlboro man types who just put getting women lower on their list. To him, these are real MGTOW, and they're very anti-misogyny. But then men who completely reject women, or whatever the fuck Barbarossaaaa is supposed to be guilty of, since Barb doesn't even fully reject sex and relations with women. Look, I can't fully explain Aaron's position, because it's completely nonsensical horseshit at best, but suffice it to say, he views real MGTOW as men who can get laid, and he believes there are bitter misogynist MGTOW who don't worship the awesomeness of women, thus are misogynists, because they are either too shy to approach women and use MGTOW as an excuse, which is a weird theory, or they hate women because they can't get laid, which is what feminists accuse us of, and he cites them as being too lazy to hit the gym, and are using MGTOW like fat acceptance feminists. He name drops Barbarossaaaa for whatever reason, again, a man who does not reject sex and relationships with women, as being one of these loser geeks who can't get laid because he's fat and lazy. And then we see a picture of Barb, and nothing could be farther from the truth, and Stardust doesn't look weak or fat or freakish. I don't have the picture with me, and the doxxed account is deleted, but from memory, he just had a strong and intimidating look to him. Certainly no reason for us to believe he's incapable of impressing the average woman if that were his prerogative, but it's just so ironic, that Aaron was dead wrong. So, myth busted, and he goes on about MGTOW, the ones he condemns as misogynists, hiding their face. But let us consider Louis Marco, who is a fucking bodybuilder, and I think would have to qualify as a misogynist MGTOW. It's hard to know that, because no one is sure what Aaron's fucking standards for misogyny are, but Louis Marco is popular, shows his face, he's a fucking bodybuilder that could bench press Aaron Clary about 100 times, and his views on women are as harsh as anything me, Barb, and Stardust have ever said. So again, this bit about too lazy to hit the gym, fat acceptance, cowardice, and that's why they speak harshly of women theory of his, is just stupid. Then you have John the other, whose views on women are every bit as extreme and harsh as Barbarossaa's. And John's not a bad-looking guy, is somewhere between 37 and 43 I'd guess. He's not a kid, that's for sure, has no shortage of confidence, and has a girlfriend, who also has a view of women as harsh and critical as Barbarossaa's view. So, I just can't explain how fucking stupid Aaron's theory is. I'm not going to go on about myself and my life, and my history with women. I used to get a lot of dates, a lot of sex, and even after becoming speech impaired, I still had women wanting me. I just steadily lost interest in women after about age 23 I'd guess, and over a long period of time lost interest in women significantly. Then I actually met a seriously awesome woman. I wouldn't call her the Newalt, but pretty amazing. We had a pretty good relationship. But it eventually didn't work out. I still stay in touch with her. I dated a little bit after her, and I was speech impaired by that time, and could still get physical sex and no shortage of hot college bitches on webcam. But I eventually lost all interest in women, and just couldn't find it in me to care enough or want enough to even stay in contact with these women. Who I am, how I am, why I am, is maybe not interesting so much as it is just really hard to explain. But point being, his theory is not applicable to me, and I am probably one of the harshest speaking MGTOW on YouTube. If any MGTOW here is going to be branded misogynist, let it be me. Then you got my boy Ravishing Rick Rude. He doesn't show his face, so I guess he's a fat lazy basement dweller like Aaron said, right? I mean, why else wouldn't he show his face? Well, actually, if you go back to his first few videos that he still has up on his channel from way back, he does show himself. Here is his old video intro, doing the arm flexing and hip rocking, tribute to pro wrestler Ravishing Rick Rude.
Feminism and rich white men. These stories and more at the Rude Awakening.
He's simply ravishing.
Now that there is a sexy man, young, cocky, and ripped, what woman could resist? None. So why is it Rick doesn't show his face on camera? How the fuck should I know? Maybe he felt his statements were strong enough to stand on their own 2 feet, and doing audio broadcasts were enough. He's not a makeup guru, so why do you need to see him? Maybe his camera broke, or, and this is just my theory, the man is so fucking sexy he was afraid of causing too many men in the manosphere to question their sexuality. Point is, not everyone wants to show their face, and there are multiple reasons, and none of it is relevant to their views on women and sexual dynamics. And some of the loudest and harshest critics of women's behavior are coming from guys who are anything but the feminist stereotype of a fat, angry, socially awkward, basement dweller who can't get laid. Aaron's entire theory, which is just a rehash of the allegations feminists toss at MGTOW and MRAs, is completely baseless. They seem to be nonsensical accusations based on his need to white knight and defend the honor of women, you know, like a male feminist. Who the fuck is Aaron Clary to dictate who gets to be MGTOW? Who is he to set up the craziest litmus test? And yeah, the fact Paul Elam endorsed this guy a few months ago, when he was essentially saying the same thing, only not as loud. Paul bitching about MGTOW like me setting up a litmus test because we don't consider married men to be MGTOW. The irony meter is off the charts. But to be fair to Paul Elam, Aaron's original real MGTOW versus misogynist MGTOW litmus test wasn't as loud and pronounced, and he wasn't asking for fucking photos of people to see if they pass his MGTOW litmus test, back on the video Paul endorsed, but it was still essentially a litmus test, weeding out the fakers who abuse MGTOW. Just saying, irony, that's all. Anyhow, Aaron Clary, in response to Barbarossaa's newest video showing his face and talking about the doxing, issued an apology for retweeting the dox dropping message, claiming he didn't know what it was. At least that's what I think he was apologizing for. It was hard to concentrate because his message was wrought with the distracting odor of bullshit, and I'll link to the video. Point is, what you look like is not important. It has nothing to do with our movement and our philosophy. This Aaron Clary nonsense that you have to be matured and experienced with women before even declaring yourself MGTOW, is pure bullshit. Aaron Clary's effort to remove, or call out, misogyny in the MGTOW movement, is some he for she white knighting bullshit more befitting a male feminist than a MGTOW, who wouldn't care about misogyny one way or the other. I don't have an agenda to spread misogyny, but I'm not going to stomp it out either. You want to go fight misogyny? Go join the feminist movement. I just think it's odd that Barbarossaaaa has had no shortage of enemies, from feminists, to tradcans, to lightweight MRAs not ready to be self-critical, critical of women, or in any way look past blame it all on feminism. Of all these years, and all these enemies, we get Aaron Clary demanding pictures of him, then making a video talking about cowardly losers like Barbarossaaaa being afraid to show their face, and then a month later Barbarossaa's pictures surface on the internet from an anonymous Twitter account, followed by Aaron accidentally retweeting the photos to his huge fan base. Maybe Aaron really had nothing to do with it, but all things being considered, I don't trust Aaron, and I warn others to be cautious of trusting him with your personal information. If he hounds you for a pic to prove you're good looking and experienced enough to be a real MGTOW, don't give this guy a picture. If he starts asking you how many women you've been with, how old you are, or what kind of work do you do, don't give him an answer. Don't respond to his shit. Don't give any personal info about yourself. And even if you hate my guts, hate MGTOW, and you're a Clary fan for whatever reason, and you're considering buying his book, Worthless, which I think is about capitalism and or college diplomas and career choices, something like that. Who knows, maybe it's a good and helpful book. I never read it. If you are considering buying his book, make sure it is done in a way that doesn't give him access to any of your personal information. Have it sent to a PO box that he can't trace back to your name. Just don't give the guy any personal information, or spend any time trying to prove you're manly enough, experienced enough, female approved of enough, to get his MGTOW seal of approval. And if you are some fat, shy, basement-dwelling nerd, who cares? I don't see it as being relevant. I see it like a bunch of people in a church. Maybe everyone in the church has a different motive to be a part of that religion. Like, maybe one person's there because they were brought up religious. Maybe another person is there because they found God while on LSD. Maybe someone else is there because they found God through AA. Maybe someone else is there because they had a near-death experience. Maybe someone else is there because they witnessed what they perceive to be a miracle. Maybe someone else is there because they found God as a suitable replacement for their heroin addiction. Does it really matter why the people that are there subscribe to that religion and its set of values? Do all nihilists become nihilists through the same process? Is one nihilist more of a nihilist than another based on that process? Did all libertarians arrive to the same political conclusion by the same internal struggles? Is one person more of a vegetarian than another because some just don't like meat, others just do it because they perceive it to be a healthier diet, and others do it out of a compassion for animals? It's some silly nonsensical hair-splitting to separate the real MGTOW from the fake MGTOW, and it's being done by a guy who is a white knight, and is being endorsed by Paul who loudly rejects litmus tests. All this shit is ridiculous. I am done.